You know what, guys? I've been meaning to make this channel for a very long time. With regards to myself, I've been a practitioner of mixed martial arts since October last year. I was going to say fighting out of training out of John Donahue, which is actually a really awesome gym. There are some pro fighters that fight out of the gym as well. So when I was looking for the gym, I wanted to make sure there was no McDojo, nothing. It was like a really legit gym. Hugely passionate about the sport. Huge fan of UFC since UFC 1. I look at all the post-fight analysis, interviews, everything. I try and follow everything if I can. And my background is on the striking side, if you will, as in Muay Thai. I did a few years of Muay Thai when I was younger. Unfortunately, I stopped for many years, and then I realized there was something like kind of missing in my life, if you will. Sounds a bit cliche. And that was just fight sport, combat of some sort, martial arts, if you will. And I thought, look, I'm such a fan of mixed martial art, UFC. What a good way to respect it by understanding it more. So at John Donahue, fantastic gym, by the way, or fight club. I'm currently studying general MMA, wrestling, Muay Thai, boxing, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So anyway, going back in time a little bit to October, I stepped into the gym. Been a very long time since I've been in like a combat sports gym or whatever you call it. Went over to, but you got to remember just one other thing. I'm learning this. I don't want to become a competitive anything. I just want to learn it for self-defense and because I'm passionate about the sport and the industry and things like that. So I'm learning it for self-defense, really, self-defense purposes. So I walk into the gym back in October. I hit the bag, shin kick, low shin kick, and then just a left, like a left jab and a right cross. That's it, straight away. You got to remember, if it's self-defense, there's no gloves, there's no wraps, there's no shin guards. This is what a lot of the stuff often doesn't cater for. You can get really good with gloves and wraps, and I'm not saying if you're very good with them, you won't be good without them. But for me, just for my personal concern was that, when I take these gloves and wraps off and I hit this bag, I can't hit it with the same power. I can't hit the hooks and the different types of hooks, jabs, crosses. It just didn't feel right for me. I hit him, and it was sore, cut very easily. I couldn't hit them with any degree of the power. Do you know what I mean? So you might see, if you go onto my channel, you see it says MMA Bone Conditioning Coach on the supported channels and you'll see there it says Iron Body Martial Art. Now this is where things get interesting. So going back to that time when I hit the bag, I've known IBMA for basically a lifetime, let's say. Pretty much. Basically a lifetime. And IBMA, Brett at IBMA, essentially is the specialist for bone conditioning, among many other things, as you'll see when you go to his channel. Bone conditioning, increasing density on your bones, learning how to hit without gloves, boxing gloves, wraps, shin guards, and getting very good at it, very dangerous at it, very skilled at delivering those blows without injuring yourself, without breaking bones, or at least diminishing that chance a lot than normal. And for me, once again, it goes back to the fact that there's a lot of people I know who are out there and they might be practicing these different arts and maybe not doing any sort of the bone conditioning. And it's of great benefit to, especially if I know there's a lot of people out there like that who are learning this for self-defense purposes, So with regards to IBMA, I started this journey in, as I said, October last year. Now, I've been practicing knuckle conditioning and to a lesser degree, more so recently, shin conditioning. So knuckle conditioning since October regularly, and then quite a bit more shin conditioning as of recently. I'm on lockdown. I've been on lockdown since March, unfortunately. Hopefully we'll be coming out of lockdown maybe mid-September, I think it is. So I've really been focusing on conditioning. I don't have a skipping rope. My skipping rope broke before this all started. I've cut the strength training for the moment. I've cut my meals to once a day, like I used to do back in the day, just to survive. And just to lower cost, just survive one meal a day, like I was used to in the past. So I just want to focus on the bone conditioning journey, so that when we come out of this, yes, my cardio will be garbage. Yes, my muscle will be garbage, but I can build those back up. But the bone conditioning takes quite a while to build that up. And so when it comes to IBMA, as you've probably seen, bone conditioning in MMA in particular is a very niche field. If you Google it, you'll see there's a few videos. They're not too depthy though. That's the problem as well. Some of them are quite a few years old. So as I said, I've known IBMA for many, many years, and I'm a student now, and I've been a student officially since October last year, focusing on bone conditioning. Now you'll see if you go to IBMA's channel, IBMA covers full body bone conditioning. So for me, I focused on knuckles. I guess you could say wrists to some degree, strengthening that with like knuckle press-ups and stuff. No, but essentially knuckles and shins for the moment, and a small amount of like general iron body bone conditioning, which I will look to increase. So the thing where it gets interesting is there aren't really many people you can turn to if you want a walking encyclopedia of bone conditioning. Now, you can be an MMA, and we'll get to this in a moment, you can be a competitive MMA athlete, you can be doing MMA for self-defense, you can be doing boxer, kickboxing, Muay Thai. If you're doing it for self-defense, bone conditioning allows you to hit bare knuckle for extended periods of time, reducing cutting, breakage. You can hit harder, all these things. Whereas before I started with IBMA, my coach Brett at IBMA, as I said, I could barely hit the bag. Now I can hit the dense part of a boxing bag with full strength hooks, straights, crosses. Obviously, I'm building up good Thai kick strength on the shins as well, and I'm following. There's much more advanced stuff that IBMA does where you can even break stuff. And I've seen some of this in person as well. So I can also, you'll see he's got a very nice, good following at IBMA. Quite a lot of a traditional following as well, traditional martial artists. But with regards to he does breaks and things like that. I've actually seen him do legit breaks. I know there's some people are a bit dubious about these edge breaks. I'm sorry, I'm going off track a little bit when it comes to MMA here. But I've also seen him break a cinder block and things like that, breeze block in person myself. It's all legit. There's no fakery or fluffery there, So the interesting thing about Brett at IBMA is, if I want a one-stop resource for MMA bone conditioning, because that's what I do, MMA, well, toughen my knuckles, all those combat, what's the word I'm looking for? All those combat body weapons. Like if I want to learn how to condition my knuckles for bare knuckle, shins, elbows, knees, perhaps forearms. I've not started really any of that. Forearms and that for blocking, preventing breaks, making them stronger. There really isn't many, and I challenge you to look. There really isn't many places you can go and shop around where someone will give you, okay, here's your beginner, intermediate, advanced bone conditioning for your self-defense MMA, so that within a few months following such and such and such, which we'll get to at some point, You can smash that bag for 40 minutes. Yeah, okay, you might get you get some calluses and the bones thicken up and things like that. But all of this is actually a benefit in this regard, and you can then start to hit these things at your full real capacity strength. Now, I did a previous video, it was too long, so I'm gonna try and keep this a little bit longer. I've got no subscribers right now anyway, so hopefully we'll get some. But finally touching on competitive MMA, this is where it gets interesting. Now, if you might Thai, you'll hear about in Muay Thai that some of the more old school guys and that do like the traditional shin conditioning stuff like that. But in MMA, and this is only very recently, there's two standouts for me right now. The benefits of bone conditioning for MMA. One of them, Stephen Thompson, as you know, widely respected as still, I know he doesn't have a UFC championship, but one of the best stand-up, fighters in UFC. Highly decorated guy, as we know. Huge kickboxing record. Recently, and this is only, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, go on his channel, it's only the past few months, he talked about what the benefits have been to doing knuckle conditioning and shin conditioning in his career. He said, compared to many other fighters, he's had very, very few breaks. Maybe one, I think he said, fist, I think it was his fist or his knuckle or something broke on somebody's head inside an MMA glove. After, I think he's got, you guys will know more than me, but I think he's got 100 fight record or something, unbeaten in kickboxing. And I know obviously with the bigger gloves, I think there, but in UFC, compared to many other fighters, as he says himself, limited to no breaks. So there's a great example. But the most interesting one for me, and to my knowledge, is the first time it's been brought up in an actual UFC like preview. You know those little preview videos they do, like on the upcoming title fight, the previous title fight between Volkanovski and Max Holloway. Now, look, I personally think Max won the fight, and I know Dana and many people do. But look, that aside, he won 2 out of 2, basically, on the judge's decision, didn't he? But what's interesting to me is and look, you guys can maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time that I ever saw UFC coverage of footage where it talked about, and it's almost like he's been keeping it a secret. He talks about what nice high-level bone conditioning, shin conditioning he's doing. With this lead coach, and you can see he's smashing that pole, and those. Let me get you. You know more than I do. You kick that. You can't kick that pole like he's hitting with his shins. That's severe damage unless you've been conditioning really nicely, very well. So this is the interesting thing: is there's now proof, and it's coming out the woodwork, that there is advanced usage for bone conditioning in MMA. And I know, like, IBMA's channel, because he's just recently, well, not that recently, he's been going to the local MMA fight club and giving people a lot of trouble, and that they're respecting his skill level, very much so. And a lot, I think, some people are, and I've seen it myself, have commented and be like, oh, well, what's the use of this kind of iron bone hitting that you're doing, or like he was doing one with a ground and pound without gloves. And I can tell you, because I just tried it recently, you do the bare knuckle on the bag and then put it downwards and hit it downwards. You see all the angles are different, and you got to condition more for that, do different types of conditioning for that. So there's some people have been shrugging their shoulders going, oh, what use is that for me in MMA? Well, as I say, it's just right there and exactly what I've just explained. The top athletes are starting to come out with it. It's a known thing. I think they probably just keep it as a competitive advantage. You might as well not tell everybody about it, right? So a lot of these guys at Volkanovski and that, he's only just come out about it. Like, when was that fight with Holloway? What was it, a few weeks ago? I can't remember now. So yeah, once again, just to kind of cut this short now, Brett at IBMA, you'll see on my channel, there's my bone conditioning coach. and I've been following him since October with fantastic results so far. And I'm looking to follow his Udemy course and his start expanding to other body weapons and conditioning those as well for that self-defense training. Um, and yeah, I look forward to sharing my progress out with the community, with him, getting his thoughts on it. And just finally, I'd like to say I created the channel as well, just for general. I'd like to just do some general MMA fight discussions. As I said, huge fan of UFC, etc. Just analysis breakdowns, my thoughts. So just in closing, um, we've got the latest UFC coming up: DC versus Miocic 3, biggest trilogy in heavyweight history. I got my fingers crossed for DC. Looking forward to watching it, and looking forward to update you guys on my conditioning kind of progress, working with IBMA. Please go and check him out. I know it seems I'm plugging him a lot, but he's my coach, and you can't find this knowledge anywhere. I've been looking for ages. So please go to his channel and subscribe to the damn channel. Maybe do some of his courses, pick his brains, find out what this guy's talking about, because very valuable information. Just one last thing I'll say. I've kind of lost track now, but I may have mentioned it earlier. I've been on lockdown here for a long time, so tool-wise, I'll be frank, I don't have much here. Luckily, I've got a boxing bag, which gets nice and dense at the bottom, so it's not too wimpy. So like semi-decent for the shin kicks and the bare knuckle, the hooks and things like that. So you might, when I send stuff up, try not to rip me apart too much, guys. You'll see that like the bag's not even eye high, guys. It's like on a chair. So don't focus much on stances or anything. Literally, all I'm doing is I'm showing my conditioning progress. That's essentially what I'm doing. I'm doing basics in the sense that I'm keeping, I've got a fist guard up, and I'm not being sloppy in that regard. But like stances and legs, don't take too much notice of all that shit for the moment. It's just I'm just showing the progress on the bone conditioning, and just here to talk all about MMA bone conditioning, MMA in general, fight analysis, stuff like that. Thanks very much, guys. I look forward to speaking with you in the future. All the best. Thank you.